So,
Are we streaming?
we're streaming and recording, and just so everybody's aware, I will be hopefully in the near future switching everything over to the Dallas After Effects user group YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
So I just discovered recently that I can have another network inside my account. So there'll be an After Effects user group.
So welcome everybody.
And if you are on the web and you're looking for our content, our meetings and stuff, go to facebook.com/groups/DallasAEUG. And now let's go look at some After Effects. You know what? Just in case, I want to make sure we're doing the right thing. All right.
You know, since D is the first letter, the whole acronym would be pronounced DAYUG.
DAYUG.
It's the
But it's all,
DAYUG.
but if we have to do the letters.
Like my DAYUG.
So what we're starting with here is because not everybody can spend all the money in the world for Trapcode particular, we're going to take a look at doing some various and sundry particle techniques inside just regular old After Effects. And I'm just going to set up a composition that's 1280 by 720, and we'll call this particles 1. We're 10 seconds long, and we're going to squeeze our windows up here. Just punch that green button up there. Just make sure all my panes fit inside my window. And so now what I'm going to do for you guys is quickly go through a little bit of the particle generators inside After Effects. So under simulation, there are particle systems, particle world, pixel poly, and particle playground. I think particle playground is the dumbest of these. So there's something you can do where you can have particle playground interact with your image. So in order to try this out, I'm just going to create a fractal texture here and drop my solid in. So I've got a fractal pre-comp, and I'll put a fractal noise on there and just crank up the contrast like this, and we're just going to drop this guy into this pre-comp and just see what happens here. So I'm going to put this layer map there, and it looks like, looks like what that does is shoot out particles. So instead of doing that layer map, what we'll do is maybe create an ellipse that is pink, or a star. Let's see. How about we do a star?
No.
I'll hit UU to twirl down my properties there. And just want to go a little bit smaller and kind of hide that behind everything and tell this that the layer map is going to be star. And the particles, we could do text layers, older and younger. I do want to make this guy smaller just to make sure.
I'm seeing stars.
Okay. So now if I hit RAM preview, I'm rendering stars. And let's see what happens if I just do I'm going to twirl here and change the color over time. Like that. And that. It looks like the particles change over time based on the keyframes, but let's see if we have
Trent,
relative random.
Trent, I need to ask you something. For the sake of the recording, do you think you could try to raise your voice a bit, speak a little louder?
I have pretty good volume here on the Mac, so
okay.
That's I'm just gonna let it stick with that.
Okay.
So now, oh, okay. So I adjusted the random time on there.
How patriotic.
Randomly colored particles. So, and we could, if we want, could go in here, like Jeremy said, patriotic. We could go and we'll do off-white. And then I'll hit K to jump to my next keyframe, and we'll work a blue in there. And we have red, white, and blue stars.
It's the 4th of July in September.
Let's see what happens with a camera. If I put a camera in, does it interact with the camera? No, this one doesn't interact with the camera. But it does, let's see, it does have some gravity. We can change the gravity direction. And so there's a repel force. I think this just causes it to spread out. Let's see what that does.
It looks like fireworks.
Well, that's interesting.
It's cool. That's kind of cool.
It looks a little bit like smoke. Like it's.
Is that force you're putting on it trying to act like wind, or like?
I have no idea.
Interesting how it's looping.
Yeah. So we also have a barrel radius, so we can.
Now that is
bigger. Repel.
They kind of look like nerds too. Nerds candies.
Yeah.
What does barrel radius mean?
It means like
That's how big the particle emitter is.
Oh,
The cannon. So
Yeah. We can release fewer particles.
It means do a barrel roll.
And let's make these guys a little bit bigger. Like so. All right, so I am, without Trapcode particular, working with particles inside After Effects. And let's see what happens when we're going to use this fractal map here. And we'll map red to friction. And then let's do velocity. We'll just do some crazy stuff here. Let's see what happens. So my fractal texture is causing different things to happen. And I'm not sure exactly what's doing what. Looks like. Is that a rotation maybe? I don't know. Scale, gradient, velocity. Let's do none on some of these. And torque. I always need more torque in my. I guess torque is the kind of a Z rotation. And it's using the fractal texture to do the torque. All right, so let's turn that off and go down here. And let's set, let's do a scale. Oh, let's do scale for both. Looks like it's turning it into a bitmap.
Yeah.
I wonder if change like this. So I set the red to scale a certain amount and the green to do a subtract on that scale. So you can see that the particles are changing size based on where they are on the near the fractal map. Let's see if we can.
Okay. So they get bigger on the white.
Yeah, bigger.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay.
So they're following, or they're using the fractal texture as the reference.
That is cool. Can you see if it'll follow it just animating? Just animate the fractal going just left to right to see if it follows it.
Okay, let's do it. I don't think it will go with it. I think it will change based on it.
Okay. That's
So
still
it
cool.
kind of looks a little bit like wind maybe is affecting it.
So black makes it small and white makes it big.
Mm-hmm. For this particular example, yes.
But it's definitely sampling it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
The clouds passing by look like wind.
Yep.
That's cool still.
Now that we have that, let's do let's see, rotation maybe. Angular velocity. Can you guys see if it's doing anything? Every once in a while they take off. Do some serious stuff there. Now they're kind of waving around in the wind. Let's try one more
So
thing.
that's
Go ahead.
cool. You could, you know, if your background layer wasn't a fractal, it was like a gradient ramp or something.
Mhm.
You could have some pretty tight control of the particles.
Yeah.
In certain layers.
What we're going to do is
That's cool.
set this up to where it doesn't have any gravity, where it just sets these particles out in space, and then they are acted upon by the fractal.
It looks like they're like the stars. Yes, they're smaller in the black, but they look like they're moving in the white.
Yeah, so I change. Oh, you know what? Let's try this. We'll map red to X, and then we'll subtract.
That's good.
Okay, so what it's doing is it's going one direction, and then when it changes, it's coming back the other direction.
One Direction.
Pretty snappy boy band.
Wait, so how are the colors still changing when it's still going through the blue?
It's picking random based on.
Is there a random seed in there or something like?
Let's see. Layer map is set to absolute random.
Okay.
It's gonna have a random time
Okay.
in there. Let's see if we can use a selection map like that. So now the colors are changing based on the fractal as well. Okay. One more thing. What am I gonna try to do here? No, I think I'm just gonna leave it at this. We can do a wall, and I think if we put a mask on here. This doesn't work, I'll just move on to something else. I'll turn it off, and then that. Particles all, okay. So the particles are doing something based on this wall over here. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing.
Concentrating?
But yeah, I don't know if they're bouncing or concentrating or
It's
what.
like you're concentrating
So-
and taking its shape.
Yeah, let's do, we're gonna go and put velocity, just turn my barrel radius back down and put it over here. We'll do velocity, some random, and I'm going to do a little bit of gravity. I want a direction here. Like that. Okay, so you can see that these guys are bouncing off of the layer map, and sorry, the mask. Repel. Let's put the radius down. So if you have, you know, logo or something in the screen, you need the particles to bounce off the logo. And you can put a mask around where the logo would be, and they'll bounce right off it.
Great.
All right.
All right.
That is Particle Playground. So we'll cover this. Particle Playground. All right. Next, we're going to go to Particle something else. I'm going to hit Shift Command E or Shift Control E to get rid of all my effects. We'll go Simulation and Particle World. We're just moving up from the bottom. Particle World is going to give me opportunities to do various and sundry different looking things, as well as different kinds of looks on this. So I can go in a direction like that and change. I'm spreading the particles out or compressing them together like a fire hose, or like when you put your finger on the end of the garden hose. That's what that basically is. And this is changing the angle of that. And for my floor, I can do bounce. So my particles, make sure I've got my floor in the right spot and my particle is not going too far away. Let's see, where does my floor live? Let's take my particle emitter, my producer. So that's the angle of the emitter, the width and height and depth of the emitter. And move it over here. There's my floor. And I'll make my particle just a little bit smaller. So this one has depth and birth size. Also has color over time. So we have bouncing happening, and then the particles kind of slow to a stop and fade out. And if I go here to the floor, sorry, let's go to the particle, and we'll just change our particle to, now let's do pink. And pink, like that. I'll make it 5 seconds long. And the bounce spread is good. I kind of was hoping it would stick around maybe on the floor, just kind of wander around on the floor, but it stops like that. So now let's look at the other thing we can do with the floor. There are two other things. We have ice. So it basically just hits and slides. And I can add
That's neat.
my angle here. Let's see, producer. And so some of the particles are going back, some of them are coming forward. And okay, so I have a camera in here I can use. Oh, no, let's see if it'll use a comp camera. Yep. Got a comp camera in here. And one more thing on the floor. We've got glue. So the particles basically just hit and stick. I'll do a little extra velocity. And we'll do explosive. Those are hit and stick.
Play Velcro.
And we also, I think, I'm not sure if all of these work with every function on here. So maybe everything this way on this side of the divider line works with these, the floor balance and stuff. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. So that's kind of cool that it makes a ring. Let's take our camera, put our camera on top like that, and get rid of the mask. Boop. And we're going to turn the floor to ice. Like that. See what happens there.
The old screensaver.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Starfield.
Yeah, so not exactly what I was looking for. Let's see what happens when the floor is bounce with some serious bounciness.
That's
true.
So that's
Looks
kind
like
of weird.
flying dust.
Yeah. We can also, let's see, if I'm going to change my particle, let's twirl all this back up. And I can make my particle something different. Like these bubbles here. And I can do some random size and random opacity. And I'll change this to, let's put the camera back. Like this. So, random kids program graphic. Because kids like things that bounce, basically, is what we've learned.
yeah.
The physics are actually pretty good on those bounces.
Bouncing bubbles.
Bouncing and stuff that light up.
Alright, so we have that. And we can do a custom color map. Do custom. So we can change here. Let's just do some really wide variety of things. That was not a very wide variety. Sorry. I understand that. I'd like to apologize.
Work on your definition of wide.
Yes, sir. And back to red. We'll take that to 3. So it's changing over time, the color. But I could also maybe make these 1 second long and do black and yellow and then black, yellow, black. that. Trying to get really low birth rate on this, but it's not working. Let's try 0.1. There we go. So they're kind of, it's not necessarily flashing, but kind of changing up over time. A little bit of flashy. And we're going to do, let's go back to this shaded sphere. We'll put a bunch of these guys in here and see if we can do volume shade. So maybe, no. So it's kind of weird there. We'll do birth to death. We'll do if we go with, we're going to turn our floor off. None. And then for our producer, no, our physics, we'll go fire like that. Move this guy down. And we're going to change for our particle the size down to 1 and 0.2. So we got that. Ooh, let's do that right there. And we'll do custom and go super bright center and then orange and then red. Then we can go do our smoky color and black. That. Now, if we have this guy maybe 3 seconds or 2 seconds, like that, and take our camera back a tiny bit. I'm just hitting the C key to change. So that looks pretty dumb. Let's change. Let's change the
PlayStation fire.
Oh, man, nobody's ever coming back again.
Yeah, that's not fire.
Fire velocity. Let's do 0.25. Nope, maybe that's not going to do it. Gravity. It's looking a lot like a tornado vortex.
A fire nado. Hellfire.
And let's see, we have a little resistance. And less gravity. That's not quite as dumb. Maybe if we even did like a 0.1 here, it would look a little bit like a fairy dust kind of thing. So with that in mind, I will do a wiggle. I'm going to wiggle this thing pretty hard and go 100 pixels. That's just on the X axis, and we'll do that for the Y axis. gone away. So we'll do it less. Oh, I wonder if it's doing. I'll do 0.25 and 0.25. Yeah. Okay. So the reason there was a problem there is because of the it's the effect world space. Okay, so I'll turn off my my expressions. If I'm at 0 here for the effect on each of those guys, and I delete my camera, then you can see when I go to -1, I'm at the edge of the screen. Or that's negative 0.5 roughly. 0.5. And do I have?
So that's the parameters the expressions are going by.
Yeah.
We're figuring out how much to.
So if you were going to do something based around a magic wand wiggling in here, or some, trying to attach this to some person's finger or something like that, then you would want to make sure that you translate, probably with expressions, your world space to whatever this thing has going. As far as it's only 1 unit wide with a -0.5 and a 0.5, the opposite end. So
Take your eyes on fire.
yeah. Now we should be inheriting.
Boring it up.
Let's inherit velocity and see what that does. Maybe.
That looks like.
Oh, it looks like Indian wedding.
Lava spurting.
Hey,
It's like splashing lava, yeah.
Looks like splashing lava.
you get some, and you get some.
Death for all.
Yeah.
So let's see if maybe the resistance was causing problems. It doesn't look too much like it's taking the side-to-side movement. I guess it kind of is. We'll do a really strong side-to-side.
That did it.
So, you're welcome. It is taking the movement. All right. Now, there are other things to do in here with your particle. You can do these kind of guys. Let's move the particle emitter up. The producer. Like that. Oh, it looks like we could also do a Z channel.
Somebody must have caused a disaster with Post-it notes.
Yep. Post-it notes. But so something that you should do, guys, is always put a blur on something and see what it looks like.
I agree.
For reals, put a blur on it. And you can even add a vector blur and see what that does.
Nice.
Whoa. That is
Interesting.
I don't know what I think that looks like.
Water.
That's really cool.
Nice.
It's like a magic spell.
Yeah, so there's different kinds of vector blurs you can add.
Yeah, it's a spell. Let me spell it out for you.
So what is the vector blur exactly?
I was literally about to
Yeah,
ask that question.
the vector blur, man, that's a great question. The vector blur takes a certain part of the property here, and it does, let's see, I don't know if I can explain it without sounding like a doof to someone who really knows what it is. So the more common version of the vector blur basically takes the outsides of the image and blurs them in until they sharpen toward the middle. I don't know all of the basics of the vector blur, but I'm going to tell you that this kind of look here is pretty cool. It's pretty smoky looking.
Is it the vector map you were changing after you put the vector blur on there?
Yeah, I changed it to the alpha channel.
Oh, that looks really rad.
It looks like smoke and yet also like liquid.
Yep. Liquid smoke. Coming to a barbecue grill near you.
That's pretty cool. It's like dry ice.
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna
a
say.
little like dry ice, or maybe it could be a spirit
Cloud.
kind of person.
Dry ice / demon.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And if I change the width of the particle out there, and maybe the physics, we can do a little bit of resistance. Let's see what that does. So, you know, you had all these particle stuff you didn't even realize you had.
Yeah.
Did not know it could do that level of smokiness.
All right.
Okay.
So now, let's take a look at.
Is there any way to get depth of field on any of these?
Can you get depth of field on any of these? That's a great question. Let's see if we can. We'll call this particle world smoke, and then we're going to duplicate it and do particle world. We'll just see if we can get depth of field. So I'm going to get rid of that layer. I'm going to, ooh, you know what else we could do with our vector blur? Use that fractal as the depth or the blur map. I'm not sure if that gains us much, but we can actually use a different image as the map for the vector blur, and even double them up. So, okay. We're going to go back out here, and we will change for our producer. We'll make it wide and deep, and change the birth rate to 1, longevity to 10, and physics, we will say velocity is 1, and gravity is 0, and resistance is 5, just to see if that gives us something that'll slow the particles down. And there was one other thing I wanted to do. Explosive. Yeah, okay, so okay, so we have our particles jumping out there in space.
Now those look like Post-it notes.
And yeah,
Confetti.
and we may want to look at square, we have cubes, and shaded sphere. Let's try this, and then go with birth to death. We'll start off white and go with black. So what do we want to do? It would be maybe a direction. And nothing extra. Jet sideways. Is that doing anything? Put a camera. Oh, that was a pre-comp. Sorry. Put a camera in, going like that. So what I'm trying to do is find where the particles are bright in the middle and darker as they get out toward the camera. I do want to turn this off. Radius like that. So they're changing based on where they are near the camera. And faded sphere. Texture. I can put a texture on a textured disk. If I want to add, an object in here, I could. Mask on it. Add that in, and let's just do a polygon instead. Make it a little bit smaller. Triangle, how about that? And with my disk, it is going to be textured with the triangle. Birth size 2, death size, birth size 1, death size 4. I want opacity to be a lot, but I don't want the birth and death to I want the birth and death to be what I pick, not what is there on the shape layer. So I will do my custom map and go from, let's do black to white. Like this. And then finally white. Maybe adjust that up a little bit. Oh, but it looks like it changed it again. Birth to death, origin to death, birth to origin, origin constant.
I'm a little lost. Are we using the colors as a mask?
I was trying to use the colors as a way to go from black to white with this guy, but I'm having a hard time doing it. So I'm gonna dump out of this one, and we're gonna go to something else, I think. That's interesting. Resistance. And I've got a textured quad, textured tri, just a quad. Yeah, I would need to work a little bit more on that for you, John. I'm sorry. Suffice it to say, this is potentially interesting for just adding 3D particles to something you're doing. Looks like the depth sorting is a little weird on this.
So do these interact with lights at all?
Let's see. They do not. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is, because we couldn't get DOF, we're going to dump that and go with the particle. What did we have? We had particle systems is next. And it has a reasonable number of the same kind of things. So I would just recommend playing around with these two guys and see, you know, what makes them different. There are, of course, it looks like this one only has radius on the X and Y. And
Doesn't look like it has a floor either.
no floor, no extra stuff to it really. You do have the fire. And Vortex. Some interesting, I mean, it is interesting. It may not be exactly what you're looking for particles, but you can success. Maybe this one has a little better opacity. I don't know. Let's do like this. And we'll go with the blur, fast blur, vertical, like that. And fast blur, just a regular, and then a vector blur. That. And there's an approximation of fire. You can maybe even squeeze in.
That's cool, which is an oxymoron.
Yep. Squeeze in here like that. Could probably even work on it with, I don't think it works with lights either. We could work on this with a levels maybe, or a curves on the alpha channel. Get something kind of interesting. All right, so now particle, what is that called? Particle system 2. Systems 2 fire. All right, another thing here, we're going to do fractal noise particles. And we're going to put in a solid, and we're going to go to fractal noise here. And it doesn't look like particles, but if you wanted to get a star field, then you can adjust your contrast up, make your transform of your scale down to about 3. And adjust your contrast up and your brightness down until you have a star field. So then maybe you have a camera in your scene, and your particles can come at the camera like so. And if we do, I'll just put a solid in the back. We'll do screen, maybe add. Let's do add just in case. I can duplicate this and change where my stars are. Like that. And put this guy a little bit further back in space. We'll duplicate this. Move it forward. And change it up a little bit. So now, if I set my camera point of interest position, actually, let's go here, do that, and we'll go over here and do that, and that, and now,
Far out.
we have some fractal noise creating some particles. Can be a little bit like space, can be a little bit like dust. Okay. And if we just set an evolution, I'm going to do 360 divided by 1 times time, like that. And I'm just gonna, I can actually right click here and do copy expression only. And whatever else has that fractal noise, if I paste, it'll also take the expression.
Magic space.
So that's kind of flickery. All right. And I can also, let's get rid of all but one of those. And I'm going to make my fractal bigger. So I could also double up on this. And I could go with my scale here. And I'll just put, now, why not? Why don't we just put a polygonal mask on here, like that. And I can do a scale on my layer and scale on the, so I've got that already. I'll hit U to show me my keyframe and come down here. I'm also going to open up opacity, do a fade out like that, and this guy is going to start low. Actually, put that over there And he's going to start low and small. Like that. And he's going to come over here. I don't want opacity yet. Come over here and make it bigger. And scale up here. Like that. And I'll put a little ease on there with my hotkey F9. And I'm doing Shift Command K to pull up my keyframe velocity. I'll hold Shift to snap my keyframes. And that's kind of interesting. Let's just speed up the action on it. See what happens.
Could I make a kind of a request
Yeah.
for a look?
Yeah.
Or just, we're just kind of doing random stuff?
We'll see.
Like
We'll see if I can handle
maybe
your
this is-
request.
Maybe this is something back to the particle thing, but I thought before, the best way I can describe this is sort of the dust floating through like an enchanted forest kind of thing, like the sparkles or particles, whatever, just kind of floating through, kind of a misty look, maybe even with like the
light rays.
depth of field he was talking about, light rays, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Is that something we can do with the fractal noise or the particle thing, or?
Yeah, so let's do a little bit of that. So this is a fractal noise explosion here.
Got a forest picture?
Yeah, maybe we can slap it on that later.
And I'll even put a little bit of blur on there, or a little bit of feather. All right, so fractal noise explosion is what I'm going to call that. Particle explosion. And then we can look at, so if I'm going to tackle that problem, I will probably, let's just start from scratch. We'll go particle, fairy particles. How do you spell fairy? How do you spell it like that?
F-A-I-R-Y.
F-A-I. Fairly particles. So we'll do that. And I'm just going to drop my solid in and put on the fractal noise. I'm going to drop my complexity down. Change my transform. And I'm going to do my best to get a little more of a circular.
Looks like speckle. What? Stucco.
Stipple?
Stucco?
Stipple? Stuckle?
Stucco?
Stucco? Yeah,
Stucco.
Stickle?
stucco.
Okay, so we have
Stop
that.
it.
And I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to do a mask on the center of this. Like so. And we'll call this particles 1. Put my camera in here. And I'll put this in 3D space. Let F4 pull up my, or just switch my toggles, toggle my switches and modes. Switch my toggles. So then we'll go toward the camera here like this, and maybe we will rotate like that, and Okay, so I'll do particles 2. I'll rotate them the other direction. I'm going to toggle my switches and modes again and go with screen. So you'll see that these particles are basically the same thing, just in a different angle. So I have a little duplication, replication. So I'll go 90 here. And just before I move any farther, I can go here and do stylize and posterize, like that. Drop that down to maybe 3. So I don't have quite as much spill and like goofy little particles off to the side. I could also maybe take this down. Let's see, maybe I don't want to posterize. Maybe I want to go curves and adjust my my RGB like that, and just tighten that up. So if you are a particle, you're actually a particle. And if you're not, you go away like that. And then I'll just copy and hit E just to make sure I have everything. Copy and paste. Undo. Shift Command E or Shift Control E gets rid of all the effects. And I'll paste them again. And then we'll just go there. So now I have 2 sets of particles. I'm going to duplicate those guys and move them away in 3D space, like that. And just for fun, we'll do another level. Move them further away, like so. So now my camera, let's change my angle on these so they don't repeat so much. 20, 200, and 270, like that. So now with my camera, you see that I switched my camera was pointing again at my anchor point. So there's my particles with depth, and I can do, I believe, a couple of different things here. So with my position, we'll start back a little bit, and then we're going to kind of move through this a tiny bit. Like so. And I can add a little bit of a wiggle here. I'm going to wiggle it just a little bit. Wiggle 0.25, and I probably need a little heft on the X and Y, so I'll do 100. But what I'm going to do is just extract the channels that I want. So I don't want to do the Z. I don't want the camera going back and forth. I just want to go side to side and up and down a little bit. So I'll pull the 0 array of the wiggle array, because it's going to give me at least 3 values on return. It's going to wiggle the X, it's going to wiggle the Y separately, and wiggle the Z separately. So I want to pull the X and give it to the X. I want to pull the Y and give it to the Y. And then for the Z, I'm just going to pull the Z value and hand it back. Okay. he said. So let's see what's going on. What is going on? So let's just do a wiggle to start with. 2, 5. Okay. We have our wiggle. W equals. Did you guys see where I messed up? I didn't see where I messed up. 1 and value 2. I wonder what I did.
I don't know.
So I'm not getting much of what I thought I would get as far as wiggle. Let's go 0.5 and
Sorry.
200. See what that does. Okay, that's looking dumb. So let's go back to 0.2.
Very
And-
moving.
All right, so now we're talking about depth of field. We can do a depth of field here and change our focal distance like that.
Let's eclipse shadows.
And maybe I also want to, just on these guys, let's see if this sells at all. Put a wiggle of like 50 on the position. Copy that expression and paste it there. And then for the rotation, let's do a wiggle of like 4 pixels.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Okay, so I've only used Fractal Noise and my camera so far. Maybe, let's see. No, I was gonna maybe think about using under blur the camera lens blur. We need to talk about that at some point again, because the camera lens blur can be super helpful and useful. And now let's go back here. I think I still have this. We'll take that evolution expression. Oh, it's off. Just copy it. And paste it on each of these fractal noises. See if they kind of flicker a little bit. No, maybe it didn't go in there. Fractal Noise. All right. Okay. You don't want to copy paste? I will add it myself. Copy expression. And paste.
Whoa.
Reminds me of those music Christmas lights.
Yeah.
And transfer video for sure.
All right. So this isn't the. It's not a $600 or $900 solution, whatever it would be, but it's approaching the potential of just having particles in your system without having a ton of overhead for your rendering, and it's just a little fractal texture there.
Awesome.
So another thing you can do with your particles is just actually go get particles from somewhere. And okay, did I answer anything for you? Did that help here?
Yeah.
You see where you can go with that?
Yeah, I definitely see where that's going.
Okay.
The one question I just had was, is there a reason you maxed out the middle and didn't just keep it full frame? Does that help with the...
The different
No, it
fields.
just helped with making it look like there's a
Oh, okay. I'm just curious.
like a swath of fairy dust
Gotcha,
off
okay.
into the distance.
Just curious. Cool.
I mean, because we could go through here and
You don't have to...
take all the masks off.
Okay, cool.
Space.
And if you, so the big deal is that all these particles are changing really quickly together. We could maybe, instead of making that change over 1 second, we can make it change over 10 seconds. And we do the cycle evolution. Change that. Do you guys know this cycle evolution in the fractal noise? You know what that worries about? Is everybody okay with that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So if you have a fractal noise on here, and let's say we're going to do something that looks like clouds here, or lava, and we're going to do a seamless loop on it over 1 second. Like that. So you have the ability, actually, cycle evolution, like that. So as it cycles one iteration, one 360-degree iteration, then it will loop back on itself. Okay.
That's cool.
Now, what a lot of folks don't worry about is the fact that it is basically the same thing every so often. Okay. So in order to change it up a little bit, what we'll do is we'll do 360 degrees every 2 seconds, and then we'll multiply that times time. And then we can change up this cycles. And so every 2 seconds, it passes through 360 degrees, but it doesn't loop yet. So it continues to move through this random noise off, however it worries about it in Z space or whatever the algorithm is, until it gets to this 8th rotation, which would be at 16 seconds. So I'll make that 1 second. So when we get to 8 here, it loops. but it's all different until it gets to this 8 and loops.
Oh, that's cool.
All right. So now what we can do is say, what if I want it to go every so many, oh no, that's not it, that's not it. I want to multiply that times 360. So I want to go cycle and revolutions times 360, like that. And we'll do that every 10 seconds. So if I send my time out, my math is going to loop it perfectly for me, but it's going to be all appear, it's going to all appear random until it gets to the end of that 10 seconds.
So it kind of goes full random until it gets close to the end, and then it reverts. It kind of heads back towards
Yep.
the exact pattern of the first frame.
Yep.
So cool.
But then I can change this to, let's say, 4 revolutions. So now it's going to go slower, but still loop when it gets to 10 seconds. Okay? And if I want it to go faster, I just up my revolutions, cycle revolutions. It's doing all this stuff. And then I can look at my brightness and contrast. Like that. And if I want my particles to randomly flicker, they will.
The surface of the water or something to make it glisten.
Yeah.
Looks like to me.
So they're doing all this, but they also loop when they get to that end of that 10 seconds.
That's cool.
I can even go like drop it down to 1, and they just move slower. Stars flickering in the night sky.
Nice.
Okay, so let's try one more thing real quick. Flickery stars. We'll do one more thing here before we go to orb, because I want you guys to see. You know what? Let's grab this solid, put it in here. I will add my camera lens blur because it is awesome. I'm going to make me some particles like so. And I don't want quite as many of them. So I'll do that. And I'm going to mask out some of this. Because I that.
Would you mind if I turn the air down just a
Oh yeah, that's my bad.
little?
I normally catch it, but I've been so cold all day.
It's okay. You don't have to crank it or anything.
Just get air moving in here. All right. So now I have a bank of particles here. And I'm going to duplicate this bank of particles. And I'll actually get some 3D space going. Move this forward, and we'll go screen and screen. Okay. I think I will go like this. Just adjust where those guys are. If I put a camera in, move side to side, we'll see that the particles move against each other in 3D space. Do some more. Change that evolution. Where's that? There we go. Okay, so now if I move my camera, particles moving against each other. I can even move my camera in and zoom out a little bit. No, what I want to do is zoom in and move out. Like that. So now when I move side to side, I have a little more parallax. Like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is pre-comp each of these. I'm going to pre-comp those guys together to start with. I'll call these particles pre-comp. And get the 3D back, so you can see that if I rotate, you can see they're in 3D space, right? But they act as one unit. So what I can do is I'm going to move my particles this way off the screen. And put them all the way down on this side of the screen.
I wonder if you can make them round instead of hexagons.
I can. I'll show you that in just a minute if you want to see it. And then I'll put. Do I want to move particles? Or yeah. Okay. So I'll duplicate here, and I'm going to set my position and then delete my keyframes. Okay. So I set it. Put a position there and delete it. Now I can, because it's in the middle, scroll back to the beginning and parent that, and now I have an extra set of particles in there. But if I do that again, so I'll unparent, duplicate, and I'll parent here at the beginning, go to the end, parent again. Okay, so now I have a set of particles that loops through itself. Because of using the particle block as an object in itself.
That's crazy.
That's cool.
And if you need to go back through and watch this again to make sure you get the method, that's fine by me, Mary.
You didn't get all that, Mary?
I don't think any of us got all of that.
I did that really fast because I want to try and get to orb real quick.
That's great.
Okay. And yes, we can go out here and change in our camera lens blur to something that's a lot more round. That. Or I can just lay out some particles like I want them, just lay out some layers randomly in this comp. And then when I go back to my main comp, they update and the motion is already set. So it's a procedural type thing.
It's like driving. That's really cool.
Okay. Cool. So just altering this keyframe where it lives determines how fast the particles move through. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to go with. Oh, before I do that, I'm very sorry. Here we go. If you also want to create your own particles, I highly recommend doing it yourself. I used my iPhone. Oh no, this isn't my iPhone. This is Andrew Kramer, I think, or someone like that. But for this animation here, I want to go to it. For this floating bokeh, I use that technique that I just showed you to build the 3D space object in 3D space and then move through it in order to get a loop. So that was that. And then my kid helped me shoot my with an iPhone in slow-mo. We shot me tapping the ground with my edger blade at high speed.
That's a firework. That's really smart. So did y'all? Is that how it's shot, or did you like?
I adjusted it in
Okay.
After Effects to crush the blacks and that. And then this is some steel wool. We lit the steel wool on fire and shot it real shallow depth of field.
Just like the beginning of the movie.
What angle is that on the steel wool?
Probably from mostly the top.
Okay.
And there was one more I was going to show you. Maybe we just need to go out here and look at embers, maybe. Yeah. So this, I was at a camp out and had my iPhone. Deep dark woods, and I had some kids. I shot slow-mo, and I had some kids just whap the fire with a stick, and these embers flew up. So I created my own particles.
So you shot that?
The forest and the stars and all that are comped in.
Wonder if there's any way you can tell a particle effect to use footage as particles.
You can. Anytime I had a texture opportunity out here, like I think maybe this guy has a texture you can do right here. You can use footage. So you would just bring your footage in and do textured, probably like textured square, something like that. And do your texture just like you would do with your solid down here.
So where is the option to let you use footage?
that right there, what I'm showing you.
Okay.
Textured. See how it says textured on there?
Okay.
Okay. I'm wondering if I had too much extra stuff on there to see the star. I'm not exactly sure why it's not showing it to me. But you can go back, you can watch this again and see how I attached the star to that to begin with. Okay.
And now I think it's time we get around to
Oh.
something a little rounder.
Yeah. So let's go look at orb real quick. And we're going to go Video Copilot orb. And we'll get that.
We're having a ball.
Now we can do the various and sundry images that came with the plugin, or that you download to go with the plugin. Right? So the Earth, we have the ability to rotate it. We can change specularity, etc. And if I add a light layer, new light, it will interact with the light like that. Okay. So you can go watch Andrew Kramer's presentation of this. It's
And
great.
be blown away by it.
But what I want to show you is the fact that you can do other stuff. Okay, so I'll just show you what it looks like to put a normal map on here and let you find your own normal maps, or Mary, you could create your own normal maps in your 3D software. So this is what it looks like with a normal map on there.
Oh man.
Yep, it's a different kind of bump map. It's a little more accurate bump map that you would get out of 3D application.
It's prettier too.
Yeah. And this is what a normal map looks like. Let me see
I've seen a normal map before,
right there. That's what a normal map looks like.
and it's not normal.
So then you can zoom in on here and see just kind of what it does with the normals.
I feel like the color's been sucked out of the world.
And speaking of color, what we're going to do is change the color of this like that, and we're going to do a different kind of map on here. So instead of a normal map, we're going to create our own bump map. All right, I'm going to go here and call this Fractal Bump. And open the new composition. I'm going to put a fractal noise. It is all about fractal noise tonight. Okay, so now that I have that fractal noise texture,
What's that? I can't
I
hear
can
you
set
over
it
the
as the
noise.
Oh, dude.
Talk about bumpy.
and instead of using it as the normal map, I use it as just a regular bump map. Like so. And I'm going to lock that and jump into the fractal here. We're going to scoot him over to the side so we can see what's going on while we adjust. All right, so here are the different looks. That's kind of interesting. this kind of stuff. Rockies, interesting.
So kind of in a nutshell, this plugin is a upgrade to CC Sphere.
Yes, upgrade to CC Sphere with a much nicer, a much more robust interface and more 3D-like rendering. So you can get actual bump off of it. Now we can also even go like with my keying here and do an extract and use that as my diffuse and have a Swiss cheese cutout.
No. Hey, let's rotate it. Let's see it turn.
All right.
I meant with the way it was before.
I'll show you that too. And let's go back to terrain. Okay, so there are various ways to make your fractal texture loop.
Yeah.
You can create seamless textures in Photoshop. You can use a 3D application to create a spherical image map or equirectangular, and that can help you put your object on here on the sphere, or your texture on the sphere a little nicer.
Do you think Andrew Kramer is going to do some tutorials on that and kind of make realistic like surface textures or whatever?
Probably not. He might later. He may have already done something. There probably are a lot of those kind of tutorials anyway. Yeah, so maybe if you want to know more about that, maybe we can talk about it in a meeting sometime. I'm trying to put that inside the ball, but
I was kind of hoping when they announced the plugin that those kinds of features would be built in, you know?
Yeah.
You can make random textures or whatever.
Oh,
some kind
yeah.
of procedural texture interface.
Yeah. So before we leave this, we're going to go back here and do.
But, I mean, looking at this with Fractal Noise, I mean, it gets you 80% of the way there.
Fractal Noise gets you real close. So I'm going to go here, and instead of my fractal texture as my surface, just use my blue there like that, and my light. I'll do that. Make it pinky, and make another. Like that. And maybe for this light, we'll do yellow. Well, that looks pretty terrible. And then I'm going to move in with my camera. That. And for my fractal texture, I'm going to offset my turbulence. Set a keyframe. Take it over there, like that, and change my specular glossiness like that. And is there one other thing I wanted to do? So then I'm going to add on here a posterize.
Very alien.
So, can even say again?
I just said it's pretty rad.
We can
You wanted
even.
it here.
Let's go. Yeah. Can you say that louder? Say that louder for the folks at home. Now I sound like an idiot.
Festive.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so got some interesting stuff there, and now we can. Let's do just the inside of the orb, like that. And I'm gonna go back here. And we are, instead of moving the turbulence, I'm going to evolve the turbulence. So we'll go 360 times 3 divided by 5 times time. So now it kind of does that guy like that. We'll go back to our orb and I'll take off the posterize. Looks like I need to rotate. There we go.
Nice.
So that looks a little bit like water.
Yeah.
It does. In a really weird way.
And I don't know, moving the camera about. I don't know if that does anything. If that helps you at all. Let's go back to the front and spin like that.
I just feel like I want my MTV looking like this.
Yeah, you do.
So I noticed as you were rotating it, there was that seam there, but once you play, there is no seam. So
Yeah.
Well, the seam is because it's trying to
Rotate
wrap.
around.
Yeah, it's trying to wrap that image around
okay,
the globe, and it's not a seamless image.
okay.
So I just put the seam on the back.
Okay.
Oh, so the I see. So it's not the seam's not wrapping around it; it's just staying put.
Right.
Okay.
Spun that over.
I see.
And we'll do one more fun thing here. Oh, let's look at this.
There's some water.
Watery, crinkly, like that.
It's like soundy.
Yeah. Could even do like, let's reduce our contrast and do generate radio waves. Yeah.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Rad.
All right, so we're finding other things inside After Effects that create extra looks, right?
Yeah.
And then there is threads.
I'm impressed.
How are those threads?
I'm not getting any work done tomorrow.
I'm impressed.
Oh shoot.
That's cool.
That is cool.
So 40 they got nothing on our
So then let's
That's
do
right.
generate cell pattern. So that's kind of crazy.
That's good.
Like the 80s.
Yeah.
This just
Dude.
doesn't get old.
And then if we rotate this,
Ooh.
and the light moves with it.
Futuristic.
and then
If you evolve the texture too, so crazy stuff.
you zoom in like that, and you don't realize maybe it's a sphere. It's just something crazy like that.
Maybe a twisted beehive from an alternate dimension.
Yep, I agree with that. Plates and that crystallizes if there's something else on there. Okay, so we got that kind of stuff.
Spider ball. Spider ball.
And we got, oh, speaking of spider ball, we can invert it. And then even here on the orb, we can go into the ball with the bump. Like that.
Oh, man.
So you're seeing the edges instead of the faces.
Mm-hmm.
And let's do one more thing. There was a, put the fractal noise on there, and I'm looking for a thing. Man, where is it? What am I even looking for? We got brush strokes that might be interesting. Looking for the thing that does, is it threads that I want? Oh yeah, that's it. So it is threads. You get kind of a, I don't know if maybe this turns into like a Death Star kind of agreeable texture.
Some trenches there.
The weirdness is strong with this one.
So interesting looking stuff. That's high res.
Wow.
Oh,
Holy
It's
cow.
threaded.
And that's not true 3D, right? That's
I think it's true 3D, just in whatever
It's-
rendering engine they've created.
Yeah, it's not ray traced, but it's using the GPU.
Okay.
It's, it's like a gaming engine basically.
Okay,
It uses
okay.
the video card to
I
produce
see.
the 3D.
Kind of looks like leather too.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly turn it into like a leather. That's kind of cool looking.
Whoa, dude.
If we made this,
The chicken basket.
yeah, so
Did someone leave their leather ball?
We're not getting into modern art territory. This is really crazy.
the more detailed your texture, the better it looks when it's rendered out in here.
Larger too, like
Uh-huh.
pixel image. Yeah.
that's amazing.
Is there anything to be said for. I know we're not like doing the whole like planet side of things, but some of the planet shots they had like the demo reel were like these very gradually curving like horizons. Does it matter? Do you have to take that thing and blow it up big, or does you need to zoom in close? Does it matter?
I don't know which is the better option. I don't know if it looks at it the same every way. So I don't know if making it big is the better thing, or if making it if zooming in on it is the better thing.
Okay, just curious.
I don't know. Maybe the texture matters. Like if we went in here and made this 2000 by 1500.
Yeah, I think that's going to matter.
Yeah, make it feel
So
fast by
you want
shrinking.
like high res textures if you're going to be real close to the globe.
That makes sense.
In the word.
Yeah, maybe making these bigger matters. Oh, come on. There. Mess something up there. There. So.
Awesome.
There is interesting potential to just get weird textures and, you know, go in Photoshop and make a texture, do all your bump, all your height maps and stuff. There are various and sundry free ways to actually create height maps or normal maps for stuff, and drop it on that ball and see what you get.
Cool. Very cool.
Just about all this stuff we talked about with this orb plugin can be translated to Cinema 4D as well, or Blender. So there you go. Thank you guys for being here.
Sure thing.
I super appreciate it. And
we appreciate you, dude. Seriously.
thank you very much.
It's true.
So now we will go back to a splash screen there, and I'll say we have one more meeting this year in October, the 4th Thursday of October, and we're off for November and December, back in January. Cool.
All right.
All right.
See you guys.
You guys take
later.
care. Dallas
Don't miss
AEUG. Facebook.com/groups/Dallas AEUG.